Guys, listen. Every time I try to record this intro, somebody rewinds time. Okay. Who's using the time twister? Who's using it? All right. You know what? I give up. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm so excited to finally talk about Loki. I'm going to be reviewing episodes 1 and 2, and yes, this is a spoiler-free review. A huge thank you to the team over at Disney Plus for sending me the screeners for both of these episodes, and yes, this is a spoiler-free review because it does debut exclusively on Disney Plus this Wednesday, June 9th, and I want you to go in fresh because there are some things that happen, especially at the end of episode 2. That are bonkers. It's directed by Kate Herron and stars Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Owen Wilson as Agent Mobius, Wunmi Mosaku as Hunter B-15, and so many more. Guys, this cast, we'll talk about it. They're so good. Now, if you don't know much about the story, we'll dive into that, and I will tell you what I liked and what I didn't like about episodes 1 and 2. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where we talk about movies and TV all the time. So if you love them just like I do, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, guys. And hit the thumbs up button if you want to see me talk about Loki every single week. And if you haven't already, get loud in the comments down below and let me know, are you guys excited for Loki? If you already watched the first 2 episodes, what did you think of them? Because we got a lot to talk about. Alrighty guys, so let's get into Loki and what this show is all about. This takes place directly after the events of Avengers Endgame, when Loki, the god of mischief, finds himself working with the Time Variance Authority to help restore balance to the sacred timeline after a mysterious figure vows to destroy it. Trust me, if that sounded cool, wait till you see the final product, because it's even better. Both of these episodes are lengthy compared to the previous 2 shows, WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Episode 1 is 51 minutes and episode 2 is a whopping 54 minutes long. But trust me, it is an enjoyable experience for the most part, and that really is due in part to Tom Hiddleston. So you know what, guys? Let's get into the positives and start with the man himself. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. This is truly Tom Hiddleston at his best, and we get that right away in episode 1. The quippy one-liners, the back and forth dialogue with Owen Wilson and Gugu Mbatha Raw, it's all just really such a great extension of his character, and that's what this show is meant to really be at the end of the day, is an extension of the character of Loki that we've grown to love in the movies. And you see that on full display during a heart-to-heart session with Owen Wilson in episode 1. It really just fleshes out the character of Loki, and we understand him more than we've ever understood him before. There's also a great deal of emotion that's brought to this character, and Tom Hiddleston really puts his acting on full display during a moment in episode 1 where he's reflecting on his past and his future, and I think it's so beautiful to see how he was even crying during this moment, and it really made me a little emotional as well. And the music and everything is sort of just crescendoing in that specific scene, and when you get there you'll know what I'm talking about. But Tom Hiddleston really does bring his A game in this show. And I also love the direction in Loki and the choice to tear down this otherwise confident character. It's a brilliant decision, and I love the fact that they're bringing down someone who has such a big ego. If anything, there are a lot of moments here where Loki is being one-upped, and usually Loki is not one-upped, he's always getting the last word, but instead he's being put on the sidelines and watching everything unfold, and he doesn't really have the upper hand in many situations. Owen Wilson as Agent Mobius takes on Loki as his own personal project in a way, and I loved how the first hour of this series really deals with the psyche of Loki and his past trauma. If anything, it's almost like a therapy session in one moment, but really it's just Loki being shown in a more vulnerable light. This is not the god of mischief that is super confident. If anything, this is a character who we start to uncover the layers of his past and even his present, and we get to know who he is as a human being rather than just a god. But with this comes a very slow pace to the series, and it allows us to spend more time in conversation with our characters too. This is arguably the slowest MCU TV show that we've got in terms of pacing compared to WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because guys, if you're coming into this thinking we're going to get a lot of action with Loki, you got to reframe your perspective, because this is going to be a slow burn for the most part. But if you're worried about action, don't worry guys, episode 2 has enough of that, and it gives you a taste of what's to come for the next 4 episodes. Oh, and I thought it was also a really good decision to explain the otherwise complicated Time Variance Authority and the Sacred Timeline, and also the Timekeepers, in one cool cartoon, where this cartoon clock, who's one of my favorite characters now in the MCU, explains to Loki exactly what the TVA does and what they're working to prevent. Now let's circle right back to the acting, because Tom Hiddleston is clearly not the only member of this cast, guys, so it's time to talk about how excellent everyone else is in the show. And it starts with Owen Wilson as Agent Mobius, who is pretty much the rib and bone to Loki. He's by his side the entire time from the first episode to the second episode, but he was my wild card coming into this series, and that's because I didn't think that Owen Wilson could really pull off this role, and the mustache didn't really sell me, and I just thought that, okay, the overall look is a little concerning for me. It gave me some pause. But instead, he blew me away with the nuance in his conversation. I love this comedic delivery and his timing, and I think that Agent Mobius is really a good yin to the yang of Loki. Then there's Wunmi Mosaku, who's playing the TVA's Hunter B-15. This character is very authoritative, she's strong, she's confident, she won't back down, so I love how she does not play games with Loki. She doesn't even care about his antics, and he doesn't scare her, but she definitely scares him, I think, in a way. Honestly, after watching Lovecraft Country, I've been excited for anything and everything starring her, and luckily the show gives her a lot of screen time, especially in episode 2. There's a supermarket scene in episode 2, which I really won't talk about too much because it is a little spoilery, but what I will say is that her acting is on full display. If you didn't know who she was before the show, you'll definitely know who she is now. And then another actress that was on my radar was Gugu Mbatha-Raw as Judge Renslayer. She is an absolute force in the screen time that she's given. Now, I say that because unfortunately she's not given a lot of screen time in episode 2, and I love the moments that we got with her in episode 1 with Tom Hiddleston. But guys, I think that the show should probably give her a little bit more shine because she's so good. She commanded my attention every time she was on screen, and I love the moments that we had with her through episodes 1 and 2, but I'm hoping for the rest of the series they do give her a little bit more exposure because she deserves it. She's great, and I just am hoping that the character of Judge Renslayer is fleshed out a little bit more than what we've already gotten. Now guys, on the technical side of things, I love how this series is shot so far, but there's one area that completely floored me through 2 episodes. The score. Natalie Holt composes one of the best scores of the year across both mediums, TV or movies. Guys, she is excellent, and the way she's able to play with different instruments and really bring about a different atmosphere is beautiful. There's this moment in episode 2 where Loki's looking through files, and I think that's when the score for me was the most prominent. There's this amazing mixture of stringed instruments that give you this Nordic vibe, and then there's a synthesizer that's being played in the background, and you never would have thought both of those groups of music would come together, but instead they did, and they did very well. There's just so much to love about her composition here, and truly the soundtrack is something so special. So I think that when it comes to the music and everything that Natalie Holt is creating, it's really remarkable, and it, for me, rivals a lot of what Alan Silvestri has done in the MCU on the film side of things. So guys, listen, you need to hear it for yourself, but it really just adds so much life and color to this series. Alrighty guys, so now let's get into my negatives, and there aren't a lot, but my only drawbacks with Loki through 2 episodes is how the show will sometimes come to a halt in momentum. This happens often during the midway points for both episodes, honestly, where Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, they're having conversations with one another, and even though I know it's important character development, and it does pay off luckily in the final 10 to 15 minutes of both episodes, I just think that the momentum is really brought down, and it does drag on a little too long. Now when we do get that big action sequence in the second episode, there's one thing that I hope this show abandons, and that's the handy cam approach to filming the fight scenes. And the reason I say that is, guys, it is too jittery for me. It gives me shades of Paul Greengrass, but it's very inconsistent from the rest of the show and how it's shot, and for me it was very distracting. So I'm hoping that that approach is either abandoned or just toned down a little bit, because I can understand the reason why they made it seem so frantic, because the situation, our minds are being boggled. It is a very confusing time for both Loki and the audience, but I just don't think that the handycam approach added anything to that moment. But luckily guys, those are the only negatives I had for Loki, and through the first 2 weeks I can tell you that this is something that is definitely worth watching. This is a very strong 1-2 punch for Marvel Studios and for this series. Honestly, it opens up on such a very emphatic note, and it actually grabbed my attention immediately, and I can't say that for a lot of shows, especially in their first episodes. And then even in episode 2, which I do believe is stronger than the first episode, it is just remarkable to see how some of these storylines are fleshing out, and there's this detective vibe to to it. Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston, Wunmi Mosaku, and even Gugu and Batara are just so remarkable together, and there's an insane amount of chemistry between everyone in this cast. Both episodes really do a good job at laying the groundwork for future episodes in the series, and it does allow you to kind of think a little bit. See, it's not giving you everything up front, and then there are going to be a lot of questions you have, but that's the point. There's this mysterious figure who the show doesn't tell you much about, but it allows for a lot of unexpected events in episode 2. So yes guys, I highly recommend Loki, and if you're a fan of the character, this is going to be a treat for you as well, because like I said at the beginning of this review, this is Tom Hiddleston at his absolute best. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Loki episodes 1 and 2, which debuts again on Disney Plus every Wednesday. This is a 6-episode series, so you guys can expect more videos and more coverage for the series as it goes on. But let me know down below in the comments if you'd rather reactions, spoiler reviews, and recaps for episodes after episode 2. And go ahead and hit the big red button below if you haven't already, just to stay in tune with everything that we're doing here at the channel. And because of your love and support, screeners like this are made possible. So guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the... Okay, you know what? Who's playing games with me? My intro was manipulated, now my outro is being played with? Alrighty guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Ha, I beat you.